Hi, and welcome back to the Dashboard Dojo. Today we're going to be talking about the Summer 22 reporting features. Salesforce added so many great things in the summer release, most of it around reporting. It is definitely worth going through all these things. We actually recorded this session a little bit earlier. We had a little challenge with the recording. We were able to keep most of the recording, but I'm going to re-record this front end. Thanks for being part of the dojo. So we'll run through a quick introduction. We'll talk about some of these new features, and we'll take a look at them. We'll talk about some upcoming OpFocus events and training, and then also some upcoming Dōjō topics. So we're going to take the month of August off and regroup in September. I hope you can join us. So who am I? My name is David Carnes. I'm the Chairman and Chief Evangelist of OpFocus. I'm really proud to be a Salesforce MVP. It's a really wonderful organization to be part of. I've been spending quite a bit of time in Vermont. This is a picture of my son out fly fishing with a guide last year. Actually, twice this past weekend, I was in the same spot, fly fishing, really just a great spot in Lamoille County on the Lamoille River, just above Stowe, Vermont. OpFocus is in its 17th year. We help SaaS companies with their revenue operations. We've been part of the Salesforce community since 2006. Somehow I'm in my 17th year of working in the community. So it's really been an amazing place. All right, so the dojo I've shared before, try to share each time. Where did this idea come from? Well, I lived in Japan for over 2.5 years and just had a fantastic experience. I happened to see a number of martial arts dojos, and I just love this sense of people of all different levels learning together. And this is really where the idea of the Dashboard Dojo came from. We do have a lot of recordings, including last October, we did a 2021 feature review, and that recording is on the Dashboard Dojo site, just Dashboard Dojo. If you click on the recordings link, there are about 30 hours of recordings of all different report and dashboard related topics. So hope you find your way there. Just a couple quick things before we get into the topics for today. Salesforce created a blog series. A gentleman named Mark Jones out of the UK inspired a 14-part blog series. Really had a lot of fun putting one part of the 14 parts together. The topic I was given was data analysis. And this article is called Build Your Data Analysis Skills as a Salesforce Admin. It can be found on the Salesforce Admin website. So if you just go to admin.salesforce.com, and this one was published May 24th. Again, it's Build Your Data Analysis Skills as a Salesforce Admin. Hopefully that's useful to you. So we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things in this session. We're going to talk about the Unified Experience for Analytics Home. This is a brand new tab that's available for you at the cost of a checkbox. So as an admin, if you can check that box, you're turning on a new tab in your system. The Analytics tab costs nothing, and it's a new home for all of your reports, all of your dashboards, all of your report folders, all your dashboard folders. And if you have CRM Analytics licenses, you can see that functionality there as well. But if you don't have CRM Analytics licenses, doesn't matter. You can still see all your reports, dashboards, and report and dashboard folders all in one new tab. We'll take a look at that. That's a beta feature. We'll talk about the the best report type. So Salesforce has overhauled that first step in the new report creation process. So when you go to the Reports tab, you click New Report. That first step has been changed. That screen that you see, which is really the most important step of them all when creating reports, whereas you're selecting the report type. And Salesforce has given us some new functionality there. They've also brought an old feature that was available in Classic for years over to Lightning, which is the ability to hide report types. Please note that if you use this, this is not a personal setting. This is a setting that impacts everyone. If you hide a report type, no one else in your company, in your organization can see it. We'll talk about multi-line, inline report editing. This has really come a long way since it was betaed last year. I think it's great. Really allows somebody while they're running a report to sort of, if they see data that doesn't look right, actually edit it directly within the report. You can edit multiple fields within a single record. You can edit multiple records. This is not a mass editing tool. However, it does give us the ability to edit multiple fields across multiple records. and save it directly in the report that you've run. Salesforce has given us a new summary function, median. So for years, we've operated with 5, or is it 4? It's 4. So we could sum, we could average, we could min, we could max, and this is now the 5th one, the ability to do a median. I wonder if mode will come next. I don't know. I don't know if that's on the roadmap, but just curious. Also, another feature from Salesforce Classic that's been available as a filter option for years on tabular reports in Classic, we can limit results in tabular reports. So if you want to create a top 10 list, we can now do that in Lightning. This is, again, only available if a report is not grouped. So that means it's a tabular report, rows and columns. The other interesting thing that we'll see with this is that you have to sort by some column. So that feature appears grayed out until you sort a column. And that kind of makes sense. If you want to do a top 10 list, you have to have something to say this is, we're ordered by. So you have to sort by something. We'll also talk about some really great updates to formulas. So if you're curious where you can learn more about each new release, so Salesforce has 3 major releases a year, we can find the release notes in literally this document called Release Notes. It tends to be 500 or 600 pages 3 times a year. So if you just Google Salesforce Summer 22 Release Notes, you can find this document. So I've got it open here. I've got my Google search, literally Salesforce Summer 22 Release Notes. If I go ahead and click on this, it brings me within Salesforce's documentation. And I'll point one thing out before we dive right in, that you can actually go back and look at earlier releases. So if you want to look at the Spring 22 release from February or the Winter 22 release from October of last year, you can see these directly within this same location if you need to catch up. Let's say you went on a great sabbatical and you missed a couple releases, or you were just asleep at the wheel, whichever. You can go back and find these. So within each of the release notes, it's been quite a few years that it's been structured this way. If you go down to the analytics section, expand that, expand reports and dashboards, you can see each of the new features we'll talk about today, and you can scroll through them, and there's notes about each one. So the first thing we're going to talk about is managing your reports and dashboard in the analytics home. So we could come in here and take a look at the new tab. Let's just go look at it live. So this new feature is called the Unified Experience for Analytics Home. It's a beta. It requires a checkbox to turn it on. And what this allows us to do is access reports, dashboards, report and dashboard folders. And if you also have CRM analytics licenses, which many of you probably don't, but if you did, you could also see that functionality in the same tab. This screenshot here on the right is if your org has CRM analytics. There's a little bit more here. So you can see these analytics items up in the top left of the screenshot. That would not be there if you do not have CRM analytics, the Tableau CRM or Wave Analytics or Einstein, whatever we called it, Einstein Analytics. If you don't have those licenses, that doesn't appear. And then some of the choices here don't appear as well. It's just simpler reports, dashboards, and report and dashboard folders. So one of the benefits of this is that it has a powerful search. This is a much more powerful search than what we've seen on either the reports tab or the dashboards tab to date. It allows you to search by fields. It allows you to search by objects. It allows you to add filters to your search, and we'll take a look at those. So it's much more powerful. And again, it's just a checkbox to enable. Before we look at this, I just want to throw this idea out there that for your end users, the fewer buttons and switches and things that they have to think about or click on, the better. And if you have users who are not creating reports, not creating dashboards, and you want to streamline their interface, this will be a really nice option as time goes by. I can see companies essentially hiding the reports and dashboards tabs for many users if they're not doing those things, and just simplifying to the one analytics tab. So let's go take a look at how to turn this on. So if we go in our system and we go under setup, and this would take an admin to be able to do this, but if we go under setup, feature settings, analytics, reports and dashboards, report and dashboard settings, it's a new checkbox down here. I'm surprised it doesn't say the word beta next to it because it is a beta, but this says enable the unified experience for analytics home. And when that box is checked, what you see is a new tab in your system. So I have here in this particular dev org, I have the reports tab and the dashboards tab. And if I click on the analytics tab, so I'm in an org that has CRM analytics, which is the Tableau Einstein analytics functionality. I'm in an org that has that. So this is a little bit busier with this analytics section here. If I click on under browse all items, I can see here that I can see some Einstein analytics. I still call it that, but CRM analytics functionality. And I can now see my Lightning dashboards, and I can see my Lightning reports down here. But you do see this other functionality that's specific to CRM analytics, such as lenses and so on. So what we can do here, we can click on dashboards and we can find our Lightning dashboards. This means the regular Salesforce dashboards. And if we click on reports, we can see all of our reports in here. And the same with report folders and dashboard folders. So they typically have the word Lightning in front of these things to mean not CRM analytics. I do have another org where the org does not have CRM analytics. I've just got this open so we can see it. The setup is the same. It's just a checkbox. Sorry, this is so zoomed in, but it's just a checkbox under feature settings, analytics, reports, and dashboards. So it's the same checkbox here. And once that's checked, it's a much simpler tab. It just says Analytics Home, and you see the search right front and center. We'll talk about that in 1 second. And then you can see items that are shared with you and items that are created by you. I think a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll go down to browse all items or favorites down here. You can quickly find those things. But let's just take a look at this search. So for people that don't have CRM analytics, I think this looks really nice. It's not complicated. It's reports, dashboards, report folders, dashboard folders. That's it, all in one tab. And if I click on Lightning dashboards, I can see that list down here. If I click on reports, I can see my reports in here. Same with folders. I don't think I have too many folders in this org. Oh, I got a few. But let's actually take a look at the search. So if I click in this, I see a list of recent items that are reports and dashboards. But let's say I search on the word pipe for pipeline. So it's found a few things in there. I'm going to go ahead and lock in the search. I'm gonna click enter. And what I see right below is all items, dashboards, folders. So I can actually zero in. These are those filters that I'm talking about. So I can actually search on everything, but if I want, I can just say, I wonder if there are any dashboards that have the word pipe in them. Nope. How about reports? Okay, there are 4 reports. I'm going to guess there are probably no folders. Let's say I go back to all items and I can say created by, and I can specify somebody in my org, such as, actually, I don't know who's in this org, this particular one, so it's probably just me. I could put myself in or put another user. I'll leave it as anybody. Created on last 7 days, last 30 days, etc. You can also say, I know I created this last year. Give me all the reports that I created last year, or ones that are modified by someone. So we can see last modified by and last modified on. And I think this is really powerful, especially for larger orgs that might have thousands of reports or even tens of thousands of reports, which we know large organizations do have those. Okay, so that's the Unified Analytics Home. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. I think this is really a nice direction. And just to point out before I move away, there is a create button here. So I can create a report, a folder, or a dashboard directly from this tab. So you're not necessarily taking away functionality. I feel like all the functionality from the reports tab and the dashboards tab has been nicely condensed into this one tab called analytics. All right. So if you check that box in your org to enable it, and you'd need a sysadmin to do that if you're not a sysadmin, then what you can do is go up to the waffle up here, the 9-box app launcher up here, and you can search for the tab called Analytics, and you can add it. You can see I've already added it here into my org. All right, so that's the unified experience for Analytics Home. Let's move on to the next topic, which is find the best report type. This is probably the big item in this summer release. This is already live. It is in your orgs, ready to go. If you've created a report recently, you've probably noticed that this works a little differently now. There's essentially one more click in the process of creating a new report, but I think it's worth it in this case because they've given us some new information. The first thing you need to know is when you click that new report button in your system, what you're going to see is a default list of recently used report types. So for a lot of users, this is going to help them, especially if they don't commonly create reports. I know in my own Salesforce org, so OpFocus, we're a team of about 75. We have our org is probably 14 or 15 years old at this point. We have hundreds of custom objects in our org from a whole bunch of apps that we've installed into our system. I mean, there might be 400 or even 500 custom objects at this point. And just being able to find report types easily is super helpful. So the first thing to note is when you go to create a new report, it's going to default to recently used. If you're somebody that doesn't create a lot of reports, you probably won't have a lot of recent report types. Or if you're brand new into the system, you won't have any. So what you might do is then instead click on all. The rest are these standard categories that have been part of report type categorization for years, accounts and contacts, opportunities, etc. Now we do have a search up here, and there's another new beta feature that I'll talk about that can be enabled. You have to submit a feature activation request to Salesforce. And what it does is it changes this select a report type search, and it adds a filter over on the right that allows us to filter report types by object. So what you could do is say, I'd like a report type that has the account object and this custom object in my org called utilization or something. And you could say, I want a report type that has both of those objects in it. So the next thing we can see on this new Find the Best Report Type screen is the category. So over here on the right, we can see custom and standard. I kind of wish they didn't reuse the word category. These are called categories over here. When you create custom report types, these are called categories. This shouldn't be called a category 2, but it is, oh well. But this basically tells us, is the report type that you're choosing, is it standard or custom? Now, the third thing we have is a little action pull down over here. You don't have to click the action pull down. You can just click on the report type name, and you'll see the details over on the right. But I could also click on this action menu pull down, choose details, start report, or I could even hide the report type. So we have the ability to manage hidden report types. We'll talk about that in a moment. Please note that the hide report type, if you say, oh, I don't ever use this, and you hide the report type, that changes it for everybody else in your org. It's now hidden. And you as either a system admin or somebody with the profile permission to manage custom report types, you can click on this link. You can see this functionality, hidden report types. So I'll talk about that in a moment. But once you've selected this, the next step is to start the report. But if we go ahead and click on details, I do want to dig into this for a moment. Let's go back into our dev org here. So if I go back to the reports tab and I click this new report button, so this is the brand new feature with Summer 22, and I'm zoomed in a little too much. So let me zoom out a little bit. Now I have enabled that new feature, that new filter over here on the right. So it's appearing in my screen, but for most of you, you won't see that until you enable the beta, or if you wait for that beta to become generally available at a later release. But we can see here my recently used, and I can see the recently used report types, the categories, and I can click on this down arrow here and I can start a report. So this is the extra click that we didn't have before. I can also click on details, and we'll talk about details in a moment, but there's a lot here under details. And then we can see that manage the hide report type. So literally, if I choose to hide this, it's gone. Nobody can use this anymore. So there's really a lot here in this page. I'll just click on the details for a second. We can start the report. We can also hide the report type from here, but we have the ability to see other reports that are created by you, other reports that are created by others using this report type. We can see all the objects used in the report type, and we can see all the fields, and you can look up a field. So this is really kind of revolutionary. If you're somebody that knows the fields that you want to create a report on, but you're not really sure which report types have those fields on it, this is a way to help you with that. All right, so this is the find the best report type, and we're going to talk about the report type details a little bit more. So there's quite a lot here. The last thing you can do with this, if you pull on this down arrow, is you can hide the report type. So Kimberly asked the question, the analytics tab is free, but the analytics item is part of the paid Tableau CRM. Yes. So the analytics tab is free, and you can see all reports, all dashboards, and all report dashboard folders. There's no extra cost. If you happen to have CRM analytics licenses, you can see those on the same tab as well. So great question, Kimberly. All right. So another enhancement to this that's beta. This is the one that I was just trying to get Salesforce to enable this morning. I went into my dev org, I submitted a case to enable this feature, to activate this feature. They called me to confirm that I wanted to do it, and I had to grant Salesforce support permissions, and now it's going to take another week or two for them to actually turn it on. But what Salesforce is giving us within this search is the ability to say, you know I need to create a report on the subscription object and the opportunity object. What report types include both of those objects? This is such a huge win. So Pamela asked the question, the tab is not visible for admin after enabling. The tab is visible once you check the box, but you have to add it. So I showed it in the screen here. If you come up, so just for everyone's benefit, we're circling back to the analytics tab. If we click on the waffle up here and search on analytics, you can add it to your set of tabs if you want. A sysadmin can also go under setup, and they can go under the app manager, and they can add it permanently to tabs, just coming under setup, apps, app manager, picking a particular app. In my case, I might add it to the reporting app, come in here, choose to manage or edit. I think I picked the sales app. Oh, no, I got the right one. Okay, so if I come to navigation items, I can just add this now for everyone. This is how I would add it for everyone. And click save. Fantastic. So that's it, to add it so that people can see it. You check the box to turn it on, and then you have to add it to your view. All right, so I was gushing about the selected objects beta. This is going to really revolutionize how, especially for orgs that are complicated, like even OpFocus, we're a team of about 75. We have at least 200 custom objects in our system, probably even more now over time. And it can be complicated to figure out what report types will help me achieve the goal that I have for reporting. So if I click on new report and I come in here, and if let's say I select accounts with or without opportunities, if I'm totally unfamiliar to this, if I click on that, I can see the details over here on the right. And I even have the ability, oh, look at this, I've created a report called quick throwaway. I don't remember what that was for, but I created it using this report type. I can see that nobody else has created reports using this report type. I can see the objects that are in this report type. And then finally, you can do a lookup on fields and just confirm, is that field that I really need to create in my report, include in my report, is it included here? So I think this is a huge upgrade on the initial steps. It doesn't really make it easier to understand what are the report types, unfortunately, and especially it doesn't really help clarify what the joins are. And we've done Dōjō sessions on custom report types and why they're so incredibly important as data structures that other people can create reports on. I kind of wish that they exposed the joins here, but they haven't at this point. All right. So for hidden report types, this is something that's been part of Classic for years. And before this was enabled, we could jump back to Classic, hide a report type, and it would be honored in Lightning. There was just no way to manage it in Lightning. Now we can manage it in Lightning. The important thing to know with this is a system-wide change. So if you go hide a bunch of report types, it's not for you personally, it's for everybody in your system. So an example might be, if we don't use assets at all, we might want to hide all the report types that have the word assets in them because we just don't use that functionality in the system. But what we can do is start a report, click on the cases with assets. We can click on the down arrow here. There's two different ways you can do it. If we click on it, we can go to the detail screen and we can hide it from there. Or if we just click on the down arrow, the action menu, to the right of cases with assets, we can choose to hide the report type. In order to be able to hide report types, you either need to be a system administrator or kind of like a super user with a very specific permission, which is the manage custom report types permission right here. So the definition of it this hasn't been updated in probably 10 plus years. I think they should add the word plus manage custom hidden report types to really make this be super clear. What does manage custom report types give you? And the reality that this also impacts standard report types. So this is why I do think it's important that they keep up with these little mini documentations about what functionality does. So let's go take a look at this, blah, blah, blah. Let's go into the system. So, I might pick something like, I think an example I've used before is solutions. This is an ancient feature. There are some companies that still make good use of it, but if you're not using this at all, why allow someone to see this? So when they go to create a new report, why should they be stuck looking at and trying to decide from all these extra things? You can just hide this now. So to hide solutions, I could literally just come in here and hide the report type. It's gone. And that's for all users throughout your system. This is no longer visible to them. To manage hidden report types, I can just click on the hidden report types and I can see all the ones that I've hidden so far. If I need to restore one of them, so let's see, how about opportunities with competitors? I could just choose to show the report type. That's now visible. All right, so please, 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 they're very, very important. If you hide a report type, that impacts everybody in your entire company. So what does it look like for people who don't have the permission? Well, those two options are just gone. So if I went to start a report on accounts, the hide report type is just gone. And then the manage hidden report types link is just gone if I log in as somebody that doesn't have these permissions. All right, so let's talk about inline editing in reports. So this is obviously the big one for many of you. There's nothing you need to do. I think it should already be enabled in all of your orgs. And if you wish to turn it off, you can uncheck the enable inline editing. That's how you would disable it. This is a pretty powerful feature. This allows you to hunt and peck and make specific updates when you've run a report. And this is available to any user in your system. So it's either on or it's off. It will respect the permissions. So if I'm a marketing, no, that's not a good example. If I'm on the delivery team, like a consultant, and I don't have the ability to update opportunities, if I run a report on opportunities, I will not be able to inline edit there. So that those permissions are respected. All you need to do to use this is just run a report. Whether it's saved or not, you can do inline edits. And if I hover over specific fields, a little pencil appears showing me which fields I can edit. So this is different than the list view multi-line mass editing. So with list multi-line editing, you could say, make this same update on these 5 records. So inline editing reports doesn't do that. This is really for somebody who says, ooh, that doesn't look right. Ooh, and this one over here doesn't look right. And this doesn't look right. You can see all the yellow highlights here. These are all fields that I've updated, including multiple fields on the same record, and then including multiple records. Okay, but this is not a mass editing tool to allow you to make the same edit across multiple records. That's not what this does. This does not work for tasks or events. This does not work for owner fields. Doesn't work for address blocks. It doesn't work for record type fields. There are some other situations that feel a little quirky with this, but otherwise it's great. We can make updates to dates, pick lists, lookups, text, number fields. email fields, phone fields. There's really a lot that we can do with this. So I do have a report started here, and this is just a report on opportunities and accounts. And if I rerun this, and if I hover over, I can make an update to the account name. I can update the opportunity name. So I can come in here and say, this isn't for Hawkins 22, it's for Hawkins 23, you know, whatever. Now the amount column, you can see that there's a little lock here. This is telling me I can't edit it. This is because these opportunities have products, so I can't edit. In fact, I think they just shut it off completely for the opportunity amount. It was available in the beta, but it wasn't perfect. I can come in here and edit the date field. So if I want to change the close date, push it out a month, I can make that change. Oops, that didn't work. I can change pick lists, you know, from new business. I could remove a value. I can come in and do text fields, blah, blah, blah. This is a numeric field here, the number of locations. I can put 13. This is a checkbox here. I can update that field as well. So I can do multiple lines if I wish.
So 2 questions came in about hiding a report type that had previously been used, and kind of the effect that that would have on future edits that you're making.
Well, I don't know that we can hide report types. We can disable them, and that's probably what you mean, to deactivate them. So something I do want to point out, we've had inline editing with list views for years, and if you have an object with multiple record types, you've only been able to do inline editing on one record type at a time. That's not true in these reports. So I could have multiple record types and do inline editing in the same report. So it's one big change over list views that I thought to throw out. I have played with this with record types, and I have played with this with validation rules. It honors the validation rules. It will prevent a save if you have a validation rule in the org. It will allow the other changes to be saved. So if I make 50 edits and there's only one validation rule that didn't work, it'll actually do the 49, save them, and warn me on the one that needs to be edited. So just getting back to Carol's question, what happens if you hide a report type that had been previously used? Assume the editing report is using the report type. Oh, not record type, report type, right? Okay, sorry, Carol. If you hide a report type that previously used, you know what? I did look at that, and I think the reports are still available. So let's actually just try it out real quick. So it's a really good question. I've already forgotten the answer. So we're going to create a report on something, and then we're going to hide the report. And I love questions like this because they're so easy to test out. So I've got this thing called NPS responses with account. I'm not going to use NPS in my system for very long. I'm just going to create just a blah report. I'm going to call it blah, blah test, save it. So this is now created on that report type. And if I come back here and I go to create another report, and I go to that NPS and hide the report type. So this is now hidden. And if I come back to my existing report, the blah, blah test is still there. So that was Carol's, let's go back to, yes, it is still there and still usable, even though the report type is hidden. This report, I had no data, and that's why it's saying no results, but the report's still there. And it looks like Joshua asked the question, and by extension, can those reports still be edited without issues? Yeah, let's try it out. If you guys give me a nice segue into trying stuff out. So let's add some columns. Let's add the contact, and let's add the NPS math. Let's save it. Looks fine. And why don't we go back to the reports tab? I'll reload the reports tab. And you can see here, the blah, blah test is still there and still usable. So thanks for asking the question. So Valerie asked the question, do you have any idea what happens if multiple users are editing the same report at the same time? You guys are coming up with doozies today. These are great questions. Thank you. So Salesforce has always adopted a first in a policy. So if Kyle and I were editing the same record at the same time, whoever clicks the save first saves it. There is some ability for handling conflicts. I haven't tried this out. All these DevWorks are just one user, so it'd be great to try that out with multiple people and just see the impact, because obviously doing inline editing takes time, and this might be 15 minutes while I'm making a ton of edits here before I save it. And what's that impact going to be? Salesforce with the inline editing handled it elegantly. So I would hope that the rest of this would be handled elegantly as well. All right, so I've just made a bunch of edits here, and why don't I save my edits and would just get a little confirmation at the top of the screen saying the changes were saved. So that's inline report editing. I think it's pretty great. It will prompt you if there is a validation rule that you're violating, and basically save the other changes and allow you to continue your work. All right, so median has been added. People have been asking this for years. There are other things. As soon as somebody asks for the median, somebody else wants the mode, but one at a time, I guess. So this is another way to summarize a column, you know, and so basically we've had some average, min, and max for years, and this is now a new fifth choice. So we can see this under a number column just directly in our report. If we down arrow and summarize, we now have the new choice of median. We can also, while we're writing formulas, so whether it's a summary formula or a cross-block formula in a joined report, we can, instead of inserting the sum, we can insert the median of a particular column. So just to go take a super quick look at that, I think I have an example started here. So I've got a report on opportunities, and I could go to this amount column, and let's go edit the report. And if I go into the edit environment, I can come summarize, and I've got sum, average, min, max, and now median. And I can figure out what is the median amount. I'm not limited to just that one item, so I could do the sum and the median if I wanted to. So I've now done both of those. Those are going to appear when we run the report up at the top of the report, just with all the other summary columns. So there's some outer limit, like 10 or 12 summary columns that you can have at the top of a report. So, you know, why not show more information? So our total amount is 150 million, sorry. Our median amount, half above, half below, is 745,000. Maybe I'll come in here and do the average as well, and we'll see how that differs from the median. So it looks like our average deal size across these 126 opportunities is 1.2 million roughly, but half above and half below would be 745,000. So that is the median. All right, so just a couple last items and we'll jump to any more questions. So we do have the ability to limit results in tabular reports. This is new in the summer release. This was available in Classic for years. If you had a report in Classic that you use that feature, it would be honored in Lightning. There was just no way to manage it in Lightning or create new ones in Lightning. Now we can do that. The key here is that it's an ungrouped report. So think of this as being great for like a top 10 list or a bottom 10 list. Who are the worst 10 sales reps we have? Who are what are the top customers that we have, top 10 customers? You can choose a number from 1 to 99. And sort of the key thing for this, where I think people are going to fall down, is they're going to go choose to add a row limit filter, and it's going to be grayed out. And then there's really no guidance on what to do. The key here is that it has to be sorted by something. So when you go create a new report in Salesforce, it's not actually sorted by anything yet. So to do a top list or a bottom list, you have to sort by something to determine what's in the top 10 or what's in the bottom 10. That is necessary to add a row limit. So I love that they've added this here. It is going to be hard for people. They're not going to figure out that you need to sort by something. To sort by something, just simply click on the column header. If you click on it once, it does it, ascending. If you click on it a second time, it's descending. And that's how we can create that like top 10 list. So let's come to take a look at this in the system. You know what, I can do it right in this report. I don't have to go anywhere. What I could do here is come in and edit this. And if I click on the down arrow for columns, I can, I want to go to filters. It's grayed out right now. Again, this is grayed out because I haven't sorted by anything. If I go ahead and click on the amount, this is now sorted ascending from 680 up to, you know, many millions. Now that I've sorted it by something, I can add a row limit. So these are our 10, we'll call this like the 10 smallest opportunities in our system. I don't think that's a great example. You know what, let's do the 10 largest. That's more interesting. So this report will be our 10 largest ops, something like that. If I go ahead and run that, I can see the list of 10 here. I can also see this filter. If I bump out the filter tab over on the right, there's a new section that's been added to show us that there is a row limit filter applied. All right, so it looks like there's some questions. I need to expand this little chat window here. All right. All right, so there are a couple of thank yous. Thank you for the thank yous. Joshua asked, if you create a dashboard component that uses a row limited report, would it take the limit into consideration? Would it be used in the full report details without the limits? Well, this is a really good question. So because you can only use tabular reports, that is going to limit what dashboard component choices you have. So there are 11 types of dashboard components. Only one of them works with a tabular report, and that is a lightning table. Now, lightning tables basically say, look, you spent all that time creating the world's greatest report, but I don't give a crap. I just care about the underlying report type. So it does care about your filters. I would want to play with this. The funny thing is within the, there's a feature within the lightning tables that allows you to do essentially the row limit as well. So there's sort of this like overlapping of the same type of feature. For the most part, lightning tables ignore what you've set up in the report. It does typically care about your filters, but it usually doesn't care about your columns. It just gives you access to all the columns that are available on the underlying report type. So it's a bit of a mouthful. I didn't answer your question perfectly, Joshua. What I'm curious about, I think a lot of times the filters are kept within lightning tables, but then you have the ability to do another top 10 list on top of a top 10 list. So I feel like the worlds are going to collide and it may actually ignore this, but I want to try it out before saying for sure. You know, Joshua, I'm going to tweet that out later today. Actually, I'm not going to do it later today because I'm going to Vermont. I forgot. So it'll be maybe next week that I'll dig into that. All right, so the last thing we'll talk about is enhancement to formulas. We've been waiting a long time. At the beginning of my Salesforce career, when I was a boy, beginning of my Salesforce career, 2005, Salesforce about that time tripled how much we could write within a formula, but they didn't triple the complexity limit, which was crazy. It was just crazy at the time. So, you know, essentially what that means is we were able to write longer formulas, but not more complicated formulas. So in this release, Salesforce quietly tripled the complexity limit within formulas. Now, if any of you remember using Excel years ago, as Excel started to grow up and mature, they kept increasing the complexity limit of formulas. And essentially you'd think of like, how many nested ifs can you have? Or how many, you know, ifs and case statements and contain statements, functions that are a little bit more complex. So we've now been given the ability to triple the complexity. How do we measure complexity in a formula? Well, you see this thing typically when you validate a formula. It says compiled size 331 characters. They really could have done a better thing, a less geeky. They could have said percentage of total complexity limit or something like that. That would have been easier for the rest of us to understand. But basically, if you took this 331 and now divided it by 15K, so prior to this release, the limit was 5,000 characters of complexity. Now it's 15,000 characters of complexity, which I think is a huge, huge increase. We've also been given 18 new functions. Functions do the heavy lifting for us as formula writers, and formulas solve problems. If you are new to reporting in Salesforce or new to reporting in Excel, it's just like formulas are absolutely what you want on your tool belt to solve problems, and functions are really the things that help us solve the problems. So these are like little workhorses for us, and they've given us 18 new functions to take advantage of. Probably one of the biggest ones, most useful ones in this new list is day of year. So there were 366 possible days in a year. We might be at day number 282 or something like that. I don't know what the exact number is right now, but we could use this function to determine that. And that would be great for us to do year-over-year conversions. So through the day of this year, and then basically refer to that again and do the math from where something was last year, you could do year-over-year reporting with that. All right. So I did think to add one new thing to the Dōjō, which is to take some challenge that I found out there and just explain how to solve it. So this is a little bit of a sideways departure on a summer release webinar, but I do think it's important. You know, there are things that people post, and this was something that was posted on Twitter. It's from a gentleman named Dave Kellogg's blog. I see him speak at a lot of SaaS events that I attend. And he said, this is the #1 most important way chart for managing the pipeline. And basically it's saying across all your sales reps, how many open deals do they have? What's the distribution of the deals? And I thought, well, you know, it'd be nice to have somebody explain how to do it in Salesforce. So I actually spent a little bit of time tinkering with it. There were a couple little challenges with this. The first one was, if you see here in his chart, this is what he posted on his blog. Basically, he wanted to see how many of these have a close date. So if sales rep #1 looks like he or she has 5 opportunities with a close date this quarter, and then you see the ones in orange are all future quarters. So this is what's in the rep #1's pipeline with the close date of this quarter versus future quarters. So that's not a normal thing for Salesforce to do, to say, show me everything in this quarter. I could say, show me everything in this quarter, next quarter, and future quarters, just grouping it by fiscal quarter, but not lump them into this quarter and out quarters. So I thought about using a bucket column, but lo and behold, bucket columns only support 3 different data types. They don't support quarters. They don't support dates. So then I had to do it with a formula to get this to work. Well, then there's another little problem that Salesforce does this odd thing of it doesn't sort, it sorts text in charts alphabetically. So the this quarter would actually come after the out quarters. So my oranges would be at the bottom and the little blues would be at the top. And that's not how he wanted to see this. So there was just a little trick to get this to work. Thank you for putting that in the chat, Kyle. This is a blogger that I really like and a speaker that I really like. So he's in the SaaS world, very well respected. He's an investor. He's a board member. Just talks about all kinds of meaningful things within SaaS. And I just thought, you know, I should probably explain how to do this for people. So if we come in here and where is it? Okay. So what are we looking at? This is not the one that I wanted. Thought I had left it open, but clearly not. So let's search for the word. Let's use the search feature. Where is my search feature? All right, my window is much too large here. So histo, here it is here. All right. So basically what I did is I created something that shows, the this quarters and this quarters are in the dark blue, the out quarters are in the teal. And then because, people behave badly and have terrible data, I also basically covered our rear ends to show prior quarters. We don't want to see prior quarters. Having open opportunities with a close date in the past, that's the cardinal sin of sales reporting, right? So we need Bruce to clean up that opportunity. But I did want to just basically leave that coverage in there to expose Bruce for having bad data. But basically the way that I built this is I created a report on opportunities. I updated the filters to show open opportunities of all time. So I changed the close date to all time. I changed the opportunity status to open. And then I came in and I added a formula field, and it's a row level formula field to say, is it this quarter or an out quarter? And when I come in here, this is the formula, and it basically has one big grand if. So if I can make this a little bit bigger. Has one big grand if, and then within that it has an and it says, basically this is determining which quarter is it in. And if it's within the same quarter as today, within the year, it's basically not only which quarter number, but which year is it in, and that basically is giving us the correct, essentially calendar quarter. But then the output says 1 dot this quarter, and the reason I did the 1 dot is because of the sort order. And it's alphabetical, and I wanted this quarter to appear first on the chart. So I wrote this formula first with just the words this quarter, and then I saw it on the chart. It wasn't sorted. I couldn't sort it the way I needed it to. So I came back into the formula and I added the 1 dot space in front of the words this quarter, out quarters. I put 2 dot space, and then I basically said anything that's doesn't match this quarter, if it's in the future, say it's an out quarter, otherwise it must be in the past. That's the only option left. And this is our little catch-all for anybody who has bad data. So I created a column called quarter. The output was text. I wrote this formula. And then what I did was I added a chart. And so within this chart, what I did was use a stacked column. So in order to use a stacked column, you have to have grouped by at least 2 things. So I've got the opportunity owner, and that's these names appearing across the bottom, and it's the quarter, and that's the striations. And I did that with a stacked column. The last thing here is that he has a reference line. And so I chose to show a reference line. I picked a number and I changed the color from the blue. Oddly, Salesforce has the same blue that it has on the rest of the chart as the default color on the reference line. I just changed that to orange or red or something. So I was able to achieve most of what he has here, except he has 2 reference lines, and there's no way to do 2 reference lines. But otherwise, I was able to solve what he did, and I tweeted it back out. He tweeted this out saying this is the most important chart for managing the pipeline, and I responded and said this is how you can do it in Salesforce. All right. All right, so that's what we've got. So we've talked about a whole bunch of stuff. I do want to get to the questions. We've got 2 classes coming up. I'll teach a 2-day hands-on reporting workshop, September 13th and 14th, and then also November 7th to the 11th. I'll teach the OpFocus 5-day admin class. I've been doing it for over 15 years now, and it's good fun. So if you're interested in taking a class with OpFocus, it's just opfocus.com/training. We do have 2 upcoming Dōjō sessions. We'll take August off, but we'll come back in September to do on track or off for session reporting in Salesforce. And then also Wednesday, September 28th, we'll do Winter 23 features. I'll be fresh back from Dreamforce, and maybe I'll see some of you out at Dreamforce, but I'll have the reporting roadmap to share with you for heading into 2023. All right, so let's dig into the questions. Kyle, if any jumped out at you.
Sure. There were a
Okay.
handful of people that talked a little bit about like formula building,
So,
and if you
so
have any
for
resources for that.
yeah, so Adriana, great question. Last year we did 3 Dōjō sessions in a row, including hands-on for creating formulas. So we went through each of the types of formulas. So you have row level formulas, you can have 1 per report. We went through summary formulas, you can have up to 5 per report. We went through cross-block formulas on join reports. We also talked about custom formula fields. So syntax is probably the hardest thing to learn. There is a page in help with about 100 reporting examples. Most people beg, borrow, and steal other people's examples and work from that. There is a page in help, Adriana. It's like formulas, functions, and operators in help. If you search for that, there are great examples for every formula. It's so great. So for example, for the if function, there's an example with 5 nested ifs. Like that's the kind of example for syntax that I want. So they've done a nice job with that. So hopefully that's helpful to you. All right, so yes, and thanks, Bruce. Steve Moe has a great source of formula stuff. He also talks about the formula of the power of 1. Pamela's asking me to paste the formula. Sorry that it's taken a while to get back to that. Sure, I'll throw this example in there. So this is coming at you in the chat. Hopefully you can grab that. Is there a way to anonymize the rep names like he had? So great question. So he did that in Excel. What you could do is you could probably use a bucket formula for that, or create another formula field that basically changes the reps names. So that's probably how I would do it. We're in this example, we're already using the row level formula once, so you can only have 1 per report. But if you created a custom formula field, you could anonymize the names that way. You might even be able to do it with a bucket column as well. It's not a perfect example of a bucket, but all right. Any other questions? If not, I'll just pull up that page in help for Adriana, the operators functions. All right, so here we go. All formula operators and functions. So if you scroll all the way to the bottom of this list, it takes a while. There is a way to get to the actual page, and I will put this into the chat. I think it will show up. So Bonnie asked the question, have we done a Dōjō and joined reports? Absolutely. It's on the Dashboard Dōjō recordings tab. So if
I dropped in the link, I believe.
Oh, great. Oh, thank you for doing that. So on the Dashboard Dōjō site, there is a tab for recordings. And if you click on that, you've got basically every session we've ever done. And there's a word cloud here. If you're interested in joined reports, we could, here we go. It's a little teeny link, but there is a way to filter in down on the deep dive on joined reports. I don't know why the thing isn't loading, but it's there. Awesome. All right, so Elise asked the question, how do I add non-summary level formula column to a report? Oh, you can add 1 per report, and it's a row level formula. So I'll just start a new report to show you how to add that. So we'll just pick anything. I'll create a report on accounts. And this is the type that I just used. It's a row level formula. And you can see the summary formula is grayed out because I haven't grouped by anything yet. As soon as you group by something, then you can use a summary formula. You can have up to 5 per report. You can only have 1 row level formula per report. All right, so I think we've got to wrap this one up, but it seems like we had a ton of great questions. Thank you so much. It's really been a blast working on this. I hope you can join us again in September, September 7th and September 28th. There'll be a lot of buzz around Dreamforce and hopefully some great new features to share with you for Winter 23 and beyond. Kyle, once again, thank you for hosting. Really appreciate all your
Pleasure.
help.
Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone.